All right, as the first anniversary of the Boston Marathon bombings approaches, the media coverage has been intense, with tributes to the victims, profiles of this year's runners, and searching looks at how the attacks changed Boston. But despite all that reporting, there are some lines the media has seemed reluctant to cross. Adam Reilly has more.
Adrienne Haslett-Davis has been one of the highest profile survivors of the Boston Marathon bombings.
It feels like only a few weeks, and we have a long road yet to walk.
But recently, Haslett-Davis walked off an appearance on NBC's Meet the Press. After that show refused her request not to mention the Tsarnaev brothers by name. If that surprised her, maybe it's because recent coverage has felt more like therapy than journalism.
We focus on the healing and recovery.
We've been overwhelmed by your calls.
Honoring the survivors and the 4 people who lost their lives is totally understandable. At WGBH, we've done it too.
And the knees are particularly cool.
Yeah, they are.
But some coverage has seemed oddly boosterish, like NECN's suggestion that Boston is stronger 1 year later. Meanwhile, other darker topics have been downplayed, like whether the attacks could have been prevented.
We are past the point, in many respects, of the coulda, shoulda business.
Also getting limited coverage, whether new safety measures go far enough, and whether the chaos in Watertown last year set a dangerous precedent.
I was just worried about bullets coming through the house, killing my aunt or my uncle.
And if we wait too long to ask the tough questions, they may not get asked at all.
Well, Adam, as we've discussed in our newsroom, and I'm sure it took place in newsrooms all over Boston, as these kind of anniversary approaches, it seems unseemly, maybe in a way, to start digging into some of these other things. Yeah. And witness the Boston Globe's Pulitzer. I mean, they have been asking these questions, and we've done some of that too, as have other news organizations. But I totally agree with you. I mean, this idea that somehow we are unified, we are stronger, and I don't know about you, but I certainly hope this Boston Strong thing does not dog us for eternity, because I'd like to see that kind of drift away too.
I have a hard time imagining that particular phrase going away. And, you know, it's been used in a number of different contexts, some of which feel right. You've blogged about this, Dan, some of which don't feel right. What I'm most concerned by, I think, is not the feel-good coverage, because, you know, a lot of people had horrible things happen to them, and watching them heal and persevere is inspiring. But it's the stuff that doesn't get covered. Every time I see that clip of Governor Patrick saying we're past the coulda, shoulda stage, I don't think we should be. I mean, I think that the question of whether these could have been prevented, these attacks, it's a big one. And it got some coverage, but I don't think enough. And I do think there are other stories like, you know, the Watertown craziness. Philip Martin here at WGBH has reported on how terrifying what happened there really was. And I think we've neglected those stories because we've been focused so much on the uplift.
We need to have parallel tracks when we're covering this. You know, certainly we've established the culture of Boston, and I mean, it is brilliant coverage that makes us feel like a community because of what we see with the Boston Strong. I hate to say it myself. I'm fairly new here. It's only been 16 years, but it is amazing how it captures the community. But I mean, the whole question locally and nationally of how easy it is for terrorists to make their mark on a community is a huge, huge story. And we cannot lose sight of that, it is, you know, we had the incident there with the backpack that was left, and how do you cover something like that? It's just a reminder, and we should have those reminders all the time that this needs to be covered along 2 lines, terrorism and also the Boston culture.
You know, you come up to the anniversary, and it's pretty hard not to do a lot of commemorative, feel-good type of coverage, and I don't have a problem with that. But as Adam and Roy have both said, we've really got to pursue the other stuff too. And Adam beat me to it, but I also wanted to mention the really good work that Philip Martin has done, reporting on a lot of police officers wanting to get in on the action, understandably.
Self-deployment.
And self-reporting at the scene and really creating a chaotic situation. I was at an event at the Kennedy Center recently at which a study of the response was presented. And in fact...
Kennedy School?
Yes. And in fact, police officials have identified this self-deployment
Yes, I saw that,
as a major problem that they need to get a
But
hold
interesting,
of.
you bring that up, because that was a report done by people at the Kennedy School, not by any police department, not by any law enforcement agency. Ed Davis promised there would be a thorough accounting that would be delivered to the media and everybody else. Nothing from the FBI. And not everybody was all that cooperative with the people who did that report. And they presented it very gingerly. I had them on the show. They didn't want to be critical of anybody.
Right.
They just tried to put the facts out.
So Roy's point is absolutely well taken. There has to be two tracks about this. But yours is as well, and that is it's really hard at this first anniversary. The timing of this, some of these pieces, has to be just so, because it feels disrespectful, certainly, and it feels hurtful to people. Like, hey, I don't want to hear about that. Do you see me trying to recover and reclaim my life? I would look to what the hospitals have done. They have really taken the time to evaluate what did we do well, what did we not do well, what lessons to take, and we're going to look at it so that we know if we are in a situation like this again. That's hard stuff to talk about in the moment, but they did it. So I think that as 9/11 comes up, oddly, when the memorial opens next year, I bet you money there will be more stuff looking back on Boston, if you will, because then there's space between what happened there and what happened here. Is just a timing thing, but we have to do it, and we have to make it somehow clear to people who read us and listen to us that it's not disrespectful. This is information you want. And to underscore that, Philip's pieces about what happened in Watertown have been just overrun with people listening to them and wanting to get the details about that.
All right. Thanks for that.